My name is Kuany, Kuany Kiir. I'm originally from South Sudan, and I work in New Delhi, India, at the UNESCO Category 1 Institute, the Mahatma Gandhi Institute for Education for Peace and Sustainable Development. And as part of the T-Learning project for Transformation for Sustainability, I am the project coordinator for youth-led monitoring, which is a technological way of monitoring social change that could be on education and around climate change, etc., or on overall issues that are very pertinent to a particular community. That's a difficult question, but what I think is first to have the humility to recognize that there are really no real alternatives, so there are very, very little real alternatives. Most of the times, really what we are doing, sometimes unconsciously, is we are reproducing the same hegemonic paradigms, and I think the importance is more on the issue of like keeping in mind that when you transgress or when you set out to transgress, to keep in mind that there are high chances, given the entrenchment of the current structures, there are high chances that they will reproduce themselves. And so that awareness, that consciousness during the process, I think is important. Only then can you produce something that you might call a real alternative, though I do not think there's a real alternative, but maybe an alternative better than the previous hegemonic entrenched structures. And then you're looking at time. It has to be, you will have to be looking at something around 50 years, 100 years for you to judge something as real, because and then in between, what you have are these small scales of transgression, these small alternatives that you keep creating as you progress towards an entire transgression of the current system in order to create a real alternative. So I think time, and to have that awareness that most of the times there are high chances you will reproduce another hegemonic structure is important. For me, it means, the process of currently or constantly questioning entrenched societal structures. Constantly, like it has to be every single day, you are constantly questioning, constantly reviewing the current structures that we have and identify pieces of it that you might want to change piece by piece. So for me, I look at it as that constant questioning. You should never be satisfied with an hegemonic structure, regardless of how seductive it might look or seem. You should never be satisfied with that. At a personal level, I think it's more of like embodying that mindset, to constantly question, to constantly roll your sleeves and try and pull out a brick from this old entrenched hegemonic system and replace it with a new one, like that, slowly by slowly, until you would have replaced the entire structures with new bricks. But the idea is to ensure that those new bricks do not end up creating another entrenched hegemonic structure. So for me, I think it is that constant reevaluation, constant self-reflection. First, it has to be personal, I think. You cannot transgress a system or a structure if you are not, at a personal level, transgressive. So I think you will have to be transgressive first. That means the way you live, your thinking, some of the things that you do, some of the views that you hold will have to be transgressive before you set out to transgress societal structures. That's a very good question, because there are so many of really good metaphors. I think the Yumikzan, which Tanya and Injairu kind of like stumbled on it, whereby you have one part of this diagram inside and the other part outside. So for you to keep the system in check, you will have to be inside, but as well as outside. So that, I think that dualistic coexistence, I thought was a good takeaway for me. There are quite a lot, but I don't think I can remember any right now. I can only remember this one.
Gente del amanecer que no olvidaron la tierra, el agua, el viento, el fuego, y de las estrellas se hicieron hermanos. Abuela, cuéntame de ellos, porque a mí están retornando y mi corazón sana cuando su historia y la nuestra se están contando. Gente del amanecer que no olvidaron la tierra.